To me, the future is right here in front of us. The young people in the world that are carrying the waves from the past to the future. The future needs to be in a space of creating balance, creating a regenerative ethic, and coming to a space where we can no longer take from Mother Nature, so that we can begin to give back for all that we've been given, so that we find ways to walk as sacred children upon this earth again, giving prayers in every step and gratitude for all that we've been given. And so now is the change, now is the capacity we have to be in a different way. And so yeah, I look at all of you, and you are the future generation. You're the ones that are carrying this knowledge forward. And I'm so very grateful to be here.
Hey there, YouTube. Hey, I am at Envision Festival here, and on that stage behind me, I just got done watching just a fabulous panel. Stephen Brooks, Ian-Micheal, and Shelby up there with them, Drew from Awake. But anyhow, there's a bunch of people on the stage, and you're going to check out the video if you are into building community and want to know about some of the challenges that building a especially foreign-directed community in Costa Rica, addressed the neocolonialism elephant in the room in this project. Let's hear from some big level developers talking about what they've done to champion some of the mistakes that they've seen done in the past. And we get into the interpersonal stuff, and just, it's a whole hour. Check it out. I am bringing Envision to you from the comfort of your home, and maybe it'll inspire you to come another time. If you like videos like this, subscribe to the channel, like it, and pass it on to a friend. Thanks a lot.
I want to invite us all, including me, to really slow down and create community first with ourselves that is in harmony. I'm representing Eterna, which is more than a community, it's a movement that is really pretending to celebrate diversity and create inclusion, merging agriculture, residency, entertainment, education, and all the good things. Thank you very much.
My name is Stephen Brooks, and I am so honored to call Andria Belen my sweet love. I've been in Costa Rica for 28 years, and I've done many different things. I'm one of the co-founders of Envision, and I'm really proud. I'm not as involved these days, but it's such an honor to walk around and just see so many people waking up, coming together here, and just having their minds cracked open to never want to go back to the way things were. I am first and foremost an ethnobotanist. I really relate to what Chris was saying. Ethnobotany is the study of the relationship between humans and plants. So many incredible plants out there that just want to nurture and love us, and the idea of merging all of these incredible plants with where we live just seems like such a big fat duh. Let me hear it from everybody. 1, 2, 3. Duh! We really need to merge where we live with what we eat, and we need our villages to look something like this. And so we live in a valley 1 hour from San Jose on your way here. It's called the Machuca Valley. And I co-founded 3 eco-villages that are neighboring. One is called La Ecovilla, one is called Tacotal, and one is called Alegria Village. Woo, woo, woo! And we are more than 200 families from 40 countries, living in a just totally valley where people really didn't think to go live. It was just like abandoned cattle farms. And we're on a crystal clear river in the most incredible climate to live, and we're ready just to continue spreading this dream of merging those things. And on top of that, education, like Andrea said, we have a project here called Ecoversity. We have a stand here. Please go check it out. We need to, if we're going to change the world, we need to learn the lessons to physically start tweaking things, because there's so much work to do. And thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for organizing this panel. Thank you for all of you and all of the work you're doing. Sometimes in Costa Rica in this movement, I feel kind of like an elder, like I'm transitioning to an elder, which is kind of interesting, but so proud. You guys are all amazing. I have interesting intertwining with all of you, and I'm so proud of all of you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Stephen.
So yeah, my name is Gab, or Gabrielle. I'm one of the co-founders of Momentom Collective with this lovely human here. Some of you guys have seen us on stage. We are here every night doing performances and on Luna. And I have been contemplating community since I was a little girl. I saw my family, I have 4 sisters, and I always wondered why people didn't choose to live with more people. And I did the whole 9 to 5, go to university and get a job and be able to live in the matrix until something happened along the way where I realized that there was an alternative way of living, and that those that were living in this way were usually artists, you know? People that were thinking outside the box and that were daring enough to do things in a different way. And so when I decided to do a huge pivot in my life, I decided that I would want to live in community, doing arts, and going deep into my spirit for as long as I possibly could. And so we manifested Momentom, and we've been on the road for 7, 8 years in 5 different countries. And there's a few people on this panel that have been big teachers for me and advisors in my life. Because I also saw a few years ago when COVID started that there was a way of living in community that would take into account the earth and all beings seen and unseen. So when we talk about community, it was more than just the human race. It was about the earth, all elements, and spirits as well. So I started contemplating what would be the future that I would really want to live in, you know, understanding too that what we call our project is usually what it becomes. And so Momentom became this huge momentumous thing where it was 1,000 people in residencies, it was all over. And so I decided to manifest an amazing team to start a project called Ka. And this project is about projecting the light body and creating a space where we can really look at ourselves beyond the physical form. And so I decided that, when I thought about where I could do that, I looked at the earth first, and Ian-Micheal being such a close friend, and with Diamante Valley being on the radar, and Costa Rica just being so rich and vast in its resources, I saw that there was a portal there, and we came together, Shelby and Catherine and I, to begin a project called this Project Ka, which is an evolution of Momentom, arts and healing, and the earth. And we'll be discussing both of these in the next few minutes, but I just wanted to say thank you to all of the people on this panel that have been huge inspirations to me, and for all of you who are also able to see that perhaps the future is based on community living. Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for sharing. So what's been coming up a lot is the word community, and conscious community specifically, or spiritual community, eco-villages. I want to break things down, and we don't have to have everyone to answer. What does conscious community mean? It's a term that gets thrown around a lot. What does it mean for you, and why is that your why? Who feels called to jump into that?
Well, you can always pick at someone too and see if they have something to say.
Ian-Micheal, you look like you're...
Well, I'm ready to throw out the word immediately, so I don't know if I'm the first one to start, but I already started, so here we go. I am really skeptical of the human language, or human languages, period. So there's already a conscious community, and that is the ecosystem that we're inside of, and that is this unbelievable planet that we live on. So if we're going to learn about conscious community, the first place to turn is nature. Listen to the elements, listen to the ecosystems, and this is one of the most intelligent ecofields on this planet. The biodiversity in the Osa Peninsula by density is the highest on planet Earth that I'm aware of. There's probably other hotspots as well. But the resilience of life on Earth is partially dependent upon biodiversity. And so what I get really curious about is biomimetics, and how can we recognize the conscious community that we already live inside of. All the animals and species of plants are listening and conscious of one another. If one speaks something, the others are listening, and they're all tracking. There's an intelligence. So how do we adapt ourselves to that way of being? That's where I think conscious community springs from. And part of my resistance to that language is it's very easy for us to say, okay, we're going to create a conscious community, and then ignore all the shadow aspects of our humanness that need to be exposed and need to be looked at. And so, yeah, I have some hesitation, but also willingness to look at, like, what can that be? And for me, it starts with nature.
Well said, thank you. I want to pass things over to Drew. Your project is named Awake, hence awakening from a sleeping community or a sleeping matrix. What does conscious community, what are we waking up from?
You're not on.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. It's more of awakening to the source inside of us, the beautiful, the natural life force that's through all of us. And Ian, that was very beautiful, like to tune into this beautiful conscious community of where we ended up here with Pachamama. And for us, I think he touched on something that was really important for us, is that the shadow work. A lot of people say, when I'm in a community, that's when all the things will happen, and everything will be fine. Almost, there's this sense of like, oh, once I find the right community, my life will be just right. And the catch with that is that wherever we go, we bring all of our shadows, we bring all of the tension, we bring all of the programming that we're carrying with us. And so until we personally start to get beyond that and past that and dig into who are we really and what are we doing here and what is our heart frequency, what is my I am frequency, then it's going to be really hard to put community together at all. Because if you ask 1,000 people what community is to them, you're going to get 1,000 different answers. And we actually struggled with this in the beginning, because a lot of people came to our spot and they're like, they brought all of their expectations, they brought all of their personal ideas of what community was, and then when they got there and they're like, oh, well, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, you're always coming up against that. And so it's just so important for each of us to approach this. And there are these wonderful, wonderful tools that help us do these things. And a huge one for us is authentic relating. And that creates these spaces where everything is welcome, our true embodied experience. We don't have, in our relating, most of our relating is about what's happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future, or our identity, or there's not a lot of talk about the exact present moment and our real embodied experience in that moment. So when you start creating spaces for that, really beautiful things happen. You start getting past that, and then there's that coherent field that forms, and that's really, that coherence is what creates that real community vibe.
Thank you. I think anyone that's lived in community can definitely echo that when you're living in community, that's when the stuff shows up. You've got that many more reflections that will echo back those shadow selves.
All the mirrors. Everybody is real good. All the things show up, when we're all mirroring each other like that. It's beautiful.
And nowhere to go from, and nowhere to run. Andria?
Yeah, you hear me? Yeah. I wanna bring another perspective of community, and it's very simple, and it's family. And I believe the family, and let's say what would be a conscious family, let's say a functional family, is the core space where we can feel nurtured, safe to actually just grow the expression that our essence, our soul brings to this world. And what happened is that right now, all the common denominator is that families are dysfunctional. It's very rare to find someone that comes from a family that is very loving. And I'm going to give the beautiful example of Stephen Brooks, that has a beautiful family and beautiful parents. They're being nourishing so much and giving so much support and acknowledgement and freedom, and is being creating Steven Brooks, someone that actually believes in his dreams and just do it, and he feels confident. And I'm saying this because I come from the other side of the spectrum, when I didn't have that family, and I had to start looking for that family. And of course, when I was little, I was going to the wrong places for care and love, and I ended up in a hospital, like in a near to death experience. And then that was my biggest crisis and my biggest gift, where I started really going very deep inside. If my soul choose this, what community and family means to me. And then I went within, and I started like understanding all the parts within me, all the little Andreas, the fragments that were there talking to each other, and many of them were bullying each other too. And it was like really not allowing all the parts just to be, and just really to have that insight and really allow the space for my inner world to express and to integrate and find harmony, is bringing a deep sense of what community inside of me means. And the beautiful gift is that I being manifested outside the external world. So yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Stephen?
I just wanted to add that I once sat on a panel, and this woman on the panel said, communities never fail because of the gray water system. The reason why I have so much faith is because for decades, generations, we've been trying with the hippie movement, the kibbutz movement, the back to land, all these different movements, the spiritual and the ashrams, trying to create community. And it just feels like right now we're in such a critical moment where so many people are doing so much inner work. Like, raise your hand if you're doing inner work. That's freaking amazing. Like most of the world isn't. And look at this. And so if people like us start to come together, and we're learning tools to communicate and tools to make decisions, and we're in such an exciting time. Merge with all the incredible plants that are out there ready to nurture us. So if you're feeling scared or down, or you're not sure, all the new gloom and doom on the news, it's freaking happening. It's happening here in Costa Rica. It's happening everywhere. We are everywhere. Don't wait for oh yeah, one day when I get this happens, I'll do my dream. Do your dream right now. Take the time to think of it and feel it, envision it, and then make a plan of action. And there's so many people. Maybe the person sitting right next to you right now, together, you guys can freaking create magic. Take a moment and look at the person next to you. Thank you.
Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to hear from Christopher, especially from working with indigenous communities. How do they feel things, and especially is there a need for ritual in spiritual community?
Absolutely. Really to say conscious community is now, it's really forced upon us because of the way that we've lived before is really failing us. I mean, depression is real. The way that people are leaving these environments and searching for new ways to exchange and ways to live in community is because what we've lived before is failing us in a way. And it really speaks greatly to the amount of work that we have to come to, and what it's going to call to us to really be able to do this new, beautiful paradigm in future. And really it's the work, it's the shadow work that these guys are talking about. I really resonate with everything you said. And from an indigenous standpoint, it really has been spoken. It's really based on the family. It starts there. There is a great need in our communities to have greater forms of rituals of initiation, and so that we can become as stronger parts of these communities, but as whole humans, not as children in men's bodies, or in this way, is that we can become fully accessible to our communities and for the powers and abilities we possess. It's to say that there's some big problems in the world, and we really need to give that amazing environment for our geniuses to create the solutions that we need right now. And so it's a really, really beautiful thing, and it's a dream that we can make into reality. A conscious community is a hard task, man. Everybody here knows there's nothing easy about it. It's such a beautiful, when it comes together, living in family and unity, and as united, we're so much more powerful. And so that's the reason for this great task, is that in our unity, are we able to complete any task? And so yeah,
Thank you.
I think for me, community, like I have my thing with language as well, but when you break down the word community, it's like common unity, right? So it's like for Awake, they really hone in authentic relating, and they're united with a vision to like create a ritual around authentic relating. For example, Momentum, we really unite our common unity through the arts. Like we do arts, we prioritize art. We also have our own gratitude circles and whatnot. So when we learn from other communities that have established their own common unity, then we inspire each other and we continue to evolve to become as conscious as we possibly can. Because the thing is that we're only as conscious as our consciousness allows us to be. You know, it's a never-ending process. It's not like one day we arrive and we say, we have made it. We have become a conscious community. It's this like mindset that we continue to do the shadow work, because without the shadow work, there is no light. And the one last thing I wanted to add is that on the talks with time, this is really interesting because there's 2 times actually happening right now. There's the biospheric time, which is nature, in what the gentleman is saying, and then there's artificial time, which is the ones that humans actually abide by. We're flowing on artificial time, which is this Gregorian calendar and whatnot. How do we know when we're in biospheric time? Is when synchronicities and serendipities happen. And we can ride that wave if we have a common unity to disengage from artificial time and get into a biospheric time, acknowledging the actual community that is here, which is all elements, right?
Excellent. One more quick definition of community in 2 words. Compassionate accountability.
Oh boy.
A great one. So how can we hold each other accountable to our full potential while doing it with love and compassion? And so, and I appreciate that bringing some of these things up. We're talking about the inner world so much, because I know a lot of us have been having to put shovels in the dirt and building community up physically from the ground up. I'm curious, I'm sure, who here actually in the crowd is currently actively building or creating some sort of community? Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Who's had a lot of challenges so far? All the same hands, pretty much. So what are the for the panel here, what are the unseen challenges that you guys have had to face, and what would you recommend to overcome those things? Some of the biggest challenges. They could be the physical building, it could be the human component.
Or in another word, what advice would you give yourself before you started your project?
Maybe Shelby, do you want to kick this one off?
So I think that in the way that we like to build things is to have a really clear plan, right? Like we know where we're going over here to point A, it's gonna be super beautiful, this is how we're gonna get there, we've got the team, we've got the plan, we've got the resources. Often we don't have all those things, but like in an ideal world we sort of have all those things. And the reality is that life is messy. And that like you start off on your like, glorious voyage to point A, and then you hit a big ass bump. And then, there's a detour, and then there's like, a huge fight. And then there's like, all these different things. And along the way, like the road is very windy. And so, like an approach that we've taken in the Gayborhood is something that was much more organic. I'm not sure if there's any technology developers out there, but agile development, does anyone know what that means? Has anyone ever heard of that word? All right, okay, so it's a way that technology is built, so you don't sort of like have a definition of where you go. You sort of know generally the vision of where you're going, but the way that technology is built is that you sort of go one step this way, and then you reassess, and you go one step that way, and you reassess, and you keep going like this. And so it's a series of like really small decisions that are sort of informed by the moment, as opposed to trying to have it all figured out. And that's a lot of what was successful for us in the Gayborhood, was saying, we're going to build a couple of structures and we're going to see how it goes, and we're going to learn. And some things was beautiful, and some things didn't go great. We had some structures fall down. and continuing to move along the way. So it feels like a really organic way of developing, of seeing like what's actually growing, what's actually emerging, and holding it lightly. So encouraging the beautiful things that are coming, not crying too hard about the things that sort of aren't going well, and really holding your team and community with you. Setting expectations. This is going to be a little bit messy. Finding the right ways of communicating, authentic relating, and finding the right steam valves so that like when shit is hitting the fan, like there is a way to communicate about that, and a commitment to holding each other. So to say it's going to be messy, but we're going to have fun, and we're going to love each other, and we're going to hold each other along the way.
Excellent, thank you. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to that because the word that you used is exactly what felt called to share it, is organic. When we started the project, we weren't sure exactly what it was going to be yet. And really the most beautiful thing we did was all decide, we moved onto the land like halfway through March in 2020. So right after that Envision, and then the whole world just shut down. Mm-hmm. And we all looked at each other and we said, okay, well, this is now, there's a beautiful blessing, and we all moved onto the land together, the three co-founders, and shout out to Govinda, my co-founder, who he lived in a tent. I mean, like he beautiful. And what we did is we really connected with the land, and we really listened to the land first. There wasn't some topographical map or drone shot, and we drew in, okay, this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here, and this is our master plan, and this is how we're going to do it. It was really about being present with the land and answering the call. And the universe was really saying to us, if you don't do it now, it's not going to happen. And that was really beautiful, like to just continue answering that call and meeting the needs as the community grew very organically. And the space is telling us. And we developed a lot of sacred space alongside the infrastructure at the same time. And that was really beautiful too, to have these really beautiful spaces to connect and bring in ritual to the new space as we built everything and dealt with that. Also, dry room storage. You're going to need more of that than you realize. The jungle eats everything if you're going to do it here. And then finally, I want to encourage everyone to build their own woodworking shop. Like, this is huge for us. You don't realize how much furniture you're going to need, and where you're sourcing that is really important. Almost all of the furniture that's been built at Awake has been built from trees that we had to harvest from the land. So it's really special now to walk around and actually see all of the furniture there and knowing that it came from the land itself. And so I'm super grateful for that. So these skills are so important. There's so much sawdust and sweat and like dirt involved in these kinds of things. So but thank you.
Excellent, thank you. We don't have to go in order. Go ahead.
Sure.
Chris?
And so the Living Library was founded about 10 years ago. It began on other properties and then moved to the land that it's at about 6 years ago. And one of the greater challenges in this project is really working in a balance with the different communities that are coming in and finding a very special way to inspire those to be able to help us in this task. It's a very young and beautiful new project. And so it's that balance to say that our community is completely supported by 100% supported by those that are in our community. And it requires of me to put myself into a certain vulnerability in the space that there is so much to do that I have to inspire others to be able to help, right? It's a forced state where I have to forge myself into a different way to be able to communicate wholly and completely in order to do a task that's so much greater than just one person. And so yeah, one of the bigger challenges is just been really, as we all come from so many different places from across the world, we all have so many different backgrounds and beliefs and spaces, is to find a way to always come to the center in that. To me, it's been a really beautiful, beautiful journey, and understanding more how to incorporate each person's magic into a project. And it's really forged me in different ways, and to be able to hold this space in the center. And that's, for me, yeah, it's been a very beautiful project. I'm part of that.
Thank you.
I'm happy to go. I've got a long
Ian-Micheal?
list.
I've got a lot.
So, first of all, I know that not all of you live in Costa Rica, So I would say the first thing, if we're talking about physical human communities that we're building, is understand your ecosystem and then understand what the potential outcomes of that ecosystem are in the next 50 years. So things are changing on planet Earth, which happens from time to time, or actually all the time, but we happen to be in an accelerated period of change. So understand where your water comes from. If you don't have water, you're probably going to be in big trouble in a couple of years. Understand where your food's coming from. If you don't have food in a couple of years, that's probably going to be an issue too, unless you've gone into breatharianism, which I think they're doing pretty well to wake. But, so understand your soil, understand what you need to do to amend the soil. You know, a lot of these projects in Costa Rica are being regenerated out of cattle pastures, and so there's a lot of things you have to do with the soil to tend to it. Then the next layer is the human layer. So understand who you're working with, who your partners are, and don't just have intentions, have binding legal agreements. And I can't say that like clearly enough. Like the human heart has infinite possibilities, but the human ego contracts in very particular ways, and everybody has different ways of contracting. And so having a contract with clear terms helps you move forward in a good way, in a way that honors all parties involved. Have legal contracts. Next thing, listen to the experts. I don't think Stephen Brooks needs more clients, but Stephen's an expert. There's a lot of people that know more than you know about the place that you're trying to do something. I was a developer in Alaska. I helped rebuild Esalen and Big Sur. We had endangered species, indigenous remains, coastal commission, geological considerations, multiple very challenging elements to build a new lodge and new housing. Costa Rica is next level in terms of bureaucracy. Understand the bureaucracies that you're inside of. So Costa Rica, we have Minay, Sinac, the municipality, so I could keep naming them all. And you need to navigate each of these with a certain degree of care, because if you don't, either you're hiding up in the mountains and you're trying to do whatever you want, or at some point the karmic toll is going to come back. And I have directly experienced that. It's not that fun. We're rebuilding a bridge today with the blessings of Minay after having a major legal case against us for putting in some gutters. And so these things are real considerations that are important. Next, understand the geology. So if you build a beautiful eco-village physically for human beings, and an earthquake comes and it collapses, it doesn't look too good. Turkey is really in a lot of pain right now. I have friends that did not come to this festival because their communities in Turkey are decimated. So understand the elements of resilience, whether they're human, biological, and as far as food, whether they're cultural. Understand the culture and the town that you're in. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. I went up to the Diamante Valley, you know, many, many times, ran ceremonies with indigenous people up there with psilocybin, got to know the local community during COVID. They're just going to open their arms to our beautiful community. That is not the case. Like, there are so many points of consideration you need to have in how you're integrating with the place and the people that have been there for generations before you. So those considerations culturally will make things much easier for you. And then also, if you happen to be in Costa Rica, understand your water. Understand the asada, understand what's possible as far as springs, understand what's possible as far as wells. Those are the many layers that we've had challenges with. Co-founder issues, human issues, legal issues with the Minay, local water town system issues, cultural issues of projection of what we're doing. And because we're a lighthouse in the Diamante Valley, everything that's happening in Costa Rica as far as neo-colonialism gets pointed at this beautiful little base camp we have of tents, because we're like this lighthouse on the top of the hill in the Diamante Valley. So it's like, okay, that's what these guys are doing, which also gives us an opportunity to be part of the reparation and the communication of what we're doing and the intentionality behind it, and be part of the education. So how do you contribute to the local community? We've had bamboo experts from around the world come to teach the Tico people and other people how to build in very particular ways with bamboo. We've brought in permaculturists to help teach our workers. We're putting our workers into training programs for permaculture and soil health. So there's all these considerations of how you can have good intentions but then the projection field of what you're doing can still be very strong. So you have to stand in your intentionality in order to continue to transmit what is true for you. So I could continue on for another hour or two, but that's it. It's a good start.
There we go. Well said. We're having a quiz after this, so I hope everyone's taking notes over there. Okay, anyone else have anything to share? Go ahead, Andria.
Yes, I would like to share the importance of creating a leadership that will represent what you want to create. That being said, if you want a community is going to be inclusive, what type of people you want to include as leaders the community, right? What are the voices? And if you want to do it in Costa Rica, I highly recommend learning Spanish, right? Yes. It's very simple, right? Like we all know about feminine and masculine energy. If we are entering into a space, into a land, we are the masculine energy that we want to enter with so much reverence and respect to the land and to the people. And a show of that is really putting energy and time to learn Spanish. I also want to say that we have to be also intentional with the demographics of the community. A devastated fact that really activate me to create community is that just 10% of the land in the world is owned by women. Just the 10% of the land. When I heard that fact, it was like challenge accepted. This is not okay. We have to do something about it. And what can we do about it? We need to voice it. We need to raise our voice. We need to really also shift that concept from ownership to a stewardship. Yet we live in a system. Legally we need to sign the paper. And I'm telling you, all of you women, that you have to sign the paper and own your land. And men, allow the woman to really tender the land and really connect with Pachamama. Because this is the change. Let's embrace all our feminine energy and our divine masculine. Let's bring balance to our energetics, and we will see it replicated all around the world.
Stephen, do you want to follow that one up?
No. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot lately that if we could totally change the world if they would only give us permits. I just thought of that the other day. It's super complicated. And, it's like I had friends in California, they had money, they had all the things, and it was just so complicated with the permitting. Costa Rica is also very complicated, but it's doable in ways. Yet it's a real challenge. It really keeps you on your toes, for sure. And some other advice that I would give is, when you're visiting your community, start your core and make most of the decisions with your core before inviting the whole community to try to make the decisions. It's really complicated. When you have 10 or 15 or 20 or 100 people, this last weekend we were in our community in Alegria with 150 neighbors in our HOA meeting. And most of the decisions the founders made and then invited everybody in. If you like the way that we planted, if you like the way we designed it, great, join us. If, there are some things that together we could tweak and find small changes, but as the founders, we made a lot of the decisions before inviting too many people in to make them. The other community that I'm part of, Tacotal, has been making more of the decisions collectively and moves a lot slower and is difficult. It's very, very difficult. So that's some advice that I would give. Get on land, now, literally, make a countdown and figure out where is the land, come up with the criteria, where do you want it to be, who do you want to do it with, what plants do you want to grow there, how do you want to make decisions, and just do it, really, really do it, break them chains.
Thank you. I mean, maybe you have some challenges that you can talk about too for a moment.
Well, I wanted to dive into a bit more of what you're saying, Stephen, because everyone's saying communication is key and involving, and everyone wants everyone to have a say. So I'm curious to hear, in terms of leadership and communication, how much input is the right amount of input, and from who?
Yes.
There's a lot of things happening now with DAO and other people having organizations having different ways of coming together. Communication. Is it? I know we're trying to get rid of the pyramid hierarchy of decision making, but sometimes that's the most efficient. So how do you balance communication and leadership in a community while still be able to make progress and not waiting for everything to happen?
Great question.
Ian-Micheal, you want?
Yeah, I really agree with Stephen that having a core, clear team of people that have the right credentials or experience are the ones that should make some of the major structural decisions. Some of the social decisions and governance decisions, having those be part of a collective decision-making process makes a lot more sense. But there's things for a community to be healthy that includes economics, the way that flows of capital happen, the way that people are cared for, the way that food is distributed. There's ways that you can see those systems if you have a certain kind of mind, and not everybody has that mind. So when you move into a collective decision-making process, there's the potential for a vocal minority or a minority that has power because of resources or influence that may not be the best decisions for the collective good. And so I am more of like, start with the benevolent dictator that really understands all the dimensions. Yeah. But, yeah, benevolent dictators, small team of people that really know their shit.
Drew, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
It's really, it's interesting because when you start giving your entire being and your capital and your talent and your time to a project, and then you live it and you breathe it and you are it, and you're having people come in, 1, 2, even a month into the line, or 1, 2, 3 years into the line, and say, oh no, you should really be doing it like this. It's like, oh, thank you for that. But there's something that happens there that it's like, wait a second, like, there's no investment of time or energy or care or love. There's been no communication with the land. And so it is really hard when you start like inviting people in and opening up that circle and getting more feedback. But on the flip side of that, like with the benevolent dictatorship, the only way that it works is if it's truly benevolent and if the people leading are open to reflections. Like as a leader, you need to be able to receive reflections from the people that are around you and involved in your life, and reflections that are hard to hear without being triggered. If someone said, and it's like owning your own impact, owning your own response, and that's so important. You've got to be able to say, okay, what you're sharing is turning something on in me, but you're not triggering me. There's something inside of me that's being touched by what you're sharing. It's such an opportunity. And like true leadership is when somebody can sit there and receive those reflections and then share like, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that like what you're saying is, and doing that, reflecting back to them that they've fully been understood. And maybe you don't change anything about the decision you made, but at least there's this space for connection around and reception of how it made them feel, and so on and so forth. And you can move forward with like a true understanding, and then it opens up this spaciousness to be able to say, okay, well, we made this decision because of this, and this is why. And then there's more receptivity on both sides to like move forward through these things.
Thank you. And what was touched on there, I want to just have one further question on this, is there a difference between the visionary, between the project, and then the person managing it and following through with it? Because we've seen in a lot of cases in big companies, the person that initially gets something moving might not always be the person down the line, and how does that transition take place?
I don't know that it's so important to separate those two in a binary way, but there's multiple things that are needed for the success of the birth of a community and the birth of a project, and to get things done on the ground. And so those skills could be within one person, or they could be within a team of people. I'm not sure that it has to be either. I know that my life feels a lot better now that I have a general manager that can run things day to day on the ground. It doesn't mean that I'm not an executor, but I would lean more towards wanting to just be in a visionary position. Yeah.
My experience is that those people are rarely the same people. The visionary and the person that gets things done. You absolutely need them both, but they're rarely the same people. I sort of went through this the hard way. So before Life's of Intentional Communities and running around Costa Rica, I was in the world of technology. I guess I mentioned this earlier. I started a company called Turo. Friends ever use Turo? Sort of like Airbnb for cars. Way back in like 2008, we came up with the idea. It was a really weird idea of like borrowing somebody else's car. I was the founder and CEO, and I did a really good job of the early sort of like visionary stage, like articulating like, this is a really weird idea and we're going to do it anyways, it's going to work. And you know, ignoring the critics that were like, honey, I don't let my husband drive my car. You think I'll let a stranger drive my car? Anyway, sort of like creating this vision and getting the early resources. But then we came into operations, and I was not the person to make the trains run on time. I was not the person to like get all of these things to work. And I really sort of held on to that role as a CEO to the point where I was removed by my board. It was incredibly difficult. I think that for many, you know, people who are really putting all of like, their person into something, it becomes like this like sense of identity. So to be like ripped apart from that was very difficult. And you know, to just be really honest with myself about what I was good at and what I wasn't good at and where I needed support, and to have which is not really what we're taught. You know, we're not taught to be vulnerable. We're not taught to say, I don't know how to do that, I need help. You know, it's like I need to project this confidence in order to get people to follow and support. And what happened after that was that the company brought in an amazing CEO who is incredibly organized, incredibly good at making the trains run on time. And I was able to operate more in this like, you know, sort of more visionary creative role. And to this day, I mean, Turo would not be around, I think, if I was still running it. And so at the time, it felt very, very difficult to like admit the things I wasn't good at and actually step out of the way and clear room for other people. But I'm just so grateful that I did, and it's been an incredible life lesson.
Thank you for sharing, Shelby. Speaking of leadership and hearing people's voices, and being in places like Costa Rica, how can we best integrate the local people, indigenous cultures and cultures of the land, while also maintaining what the vision might be for the project? So how do those integrate? How does that intersect?
Let's hear a bit of Chris, maybe.
Well, I would say integrating with the culture first comes from, as was said earlier, to speak the language, giving you the link to people, learning the way that people live, what's the way that the humor works, so many things that really represent the local land, and incorporation in the ways that we're creating things, because there's a lot of different and new ideas that are coming to these lands in ways that we can grow and create things in much more beneficial ways. There's an exchange that happens in that way, an investment from one into the other. In incorporation of the locals is bringing fruit trees to your neighbors and incorporating them to your house and to your home. But there's in these more modern forms of caring for land in ways that are being presented, there's a lot to be exchanged in a way. And so it's a beautiful investment that takes a lot of time to gain trust and to gain that way. When you, in a certain way, you can come to the point and level where you're part of people's family. And it's very important and to hold that space, but it's a big investment. It's just a simple and long-term investment, and it starts by learning the language and learning the dichos, or the ways that people express themselves here.
Kind of, yeah, bridging those two things, like just feeling separated from your project. This is my first year ever at Envision, not as an owner. I sold my shares this year at Envision. I'm one of the co-founders. I worked my freaking ass off here. Every year at the end of the festival, I was really worked, and now walking around and not having that, you know, it's like, how is that different? Walking around, oh, I don't own shares in the company anymore. What does that mean? How does that feel? And what does it mean to kind of dream and vision and birth and let go and fly? You know, it's like we dance with that. And, you know, I also, one of the things that I worked really hard at Envision for many years was trying to figure out how to bring more Costa Ricans. And I saw Federico back there, but Federico Gutierrez and I were organizing events in San Jose and like really, really putting a lot of energy to try to bring I mean, part of the vision when we started Envision was a lot of us were bringing our Costa Rican friends to Burning Man each year, and we couldn't bring everyone to Burning Man, but maybe we could bring a little Burning Man here. And so that was a big part of the vision. And I walk around here and raise your hand if you're Costa Rican here right now. Yeah. Let's give. I want to really invite everybody to make sure that you connect deeply this week with a Costa Rican. They're so incredibly beautiful and amazing. Yeah.
I think that while there is an intention, I think, for many of these communities to be connecting with Costa Ricans, the reality is that it's very difficult. And you know, when we look around at many of the events that or retreats that we're hosting, there's very few Costa Ricans present. And so a couple of like small things that we've done and have had good success with is just really like inviting and just making it clear. We have a Tico price for every single event and retreat that we offer, and it has a really meaningful for discount in price. And I think that's really important. We've also really listened to. I mean, so we're in the Diamante Valley close by, and definitely the biggest LGBT community is in San Jose, and so it's quite a trek for people to come, and so we have to really think about what are the events, like what can they actually do. Even if we made them free, to get them to come out often takes like transportation and taking time off of work. So we've hosted events specifically for the Tico community, primarily in Spanish, around the times that they have off. So Semana Santa, over the Independence. So, I mean, I think we're definitely still learning, but really just like listening to, you know, making a sincere invitation to the Ticos and really listening to what works for them and what they can show up for is, you know, hopefully one step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit more relevant to Momentum, but one of the things that we figured out is that as much as we get, you know, we seek the advice of indigenous medicine people for any healing, part of what we did is that we went to the street, to like the street artists, you know, the graffiti artists, the circus that were on the street. In fact, like some of the people that are on our team are people that we saw actually doing art on the street. Even Pyro Danza that you guys will probably see on stage, they're amazing. But we met them in the street in Nicaragua doing fire. And when we stopped to talk to the people that are living like the actual grassroots life, you learn so much about how things are actually done in the country, whether it's Costa Rica or Nicaragua or Venezuela or from wherever. So just to pay attention to the artists that are on the street is what I would say. Yeah.
Andrea?
Something short, and I just want to insist again, bring Tico local leadership into the community. That is crucial.
It's a nice chair.
And when you create your community and you have people coming and living here, encourage that people to partner with local people if they want to create businesses. Like give equity, make them feel part of it, not just like $4 pay per hour, right? Like it's really, are we really, and it's an interesting question, right? Like, are we really want to partner with them, or we, you know, and it's an interesting, yeah, dance, but I'm sure that also the locals will feel more interested if they feel the energetics more like peers, right? And what has to be done from our side to to shift whatever superior, unconscious beliefs or systems still there remaining.
Yeah, we're coming near the end of the talk here. So, I guess the final question is what is the ideal future? What are we collectively working towards? Whether that's your individual project or collectively, what do you guys see? And what is inspiring the hope for us to keep moving forward towards this? So, the future ahead. What do you guys foresee?
To me, the future is right here in front of us. The young people in the world that are carrying the waves from the past to the future. The future needs to be in a space of creating balance, creating a regenerative ethic, and coming to a space where we can no longer take from Mother Nature, so that we can begin to give back for all that we've been given, so that we find ways to walk as sacred children upon this earth again, giving prayers in every step and gratitude for all that we've been given. And so now is the change, now is the capacity we have to be in a different way. And so yeah, I look at all of you, and you are the future generation. You're the ones that are carrying this knowledge forward. And I'm so very grateful to be here.
Ian-Micheal?
A lot of thoughts just came, so I'm going to try to distill it really well. We work with plant medicine at Holos, and a lot of working with plant medicine is about facing our mortality and death and rebirth and what's happening in this epoch of time. And so let's just hypothesize that we are in a death spiral, a death cycle of this iteration of life expression on Earth. Let's just say that that's happening. A couple nights ago I spent time with my dead grandmother, who I had never met, and I realized that my grandfather could have related to her death as something that to be celebrated, to celebrate her life and her joy, and to keep showing up for life. But instead, my grandfather took his own life, and that has trickled down into the epigenetics of my body. But if we collectively start looking at this death cycle that we're inside of, which is very much a reality, like you can drive down the road, hit a creature, there's a lot of death happening all the time on this planet, but it's exacerbated at this moment. So if we as a culture, and those that come to festivals and have these really transcendent, beautiful experiences, if we can enter into the crucible of life with love and celebration, and have the energy that Stephen Brooks has to keep planting trees, that's going to get us through. So what I see in the future is like the bifurcation of like two very distinct possibilities. We allow ourselves to enter into this death cycle and be consumed by it, or we continue to move through it with intentionality and love.
Thank you.
I'd like to share. Thank you. So the optimal future for me is that the Garden of Eden isn't some story that we were told when we were kids, that we create this common unity, that each one in our little pockets around the world create abundance with food and blessings of water and spaces for every species to thrive. So the Garden of Eden is like the standard, that we're all looking for. In the optimal future, there is a recognition that the spaces in which we inhabit are reflections of our minds. So way more sacred geometry, Merkaba houses, pyramids to be praying into, and a lot less walls and doors in general in where we sleep. And in the ideal world, we recognize that the chaos is part of it, that we're not trying to resist the chaos, that the universe is actually made of chaos, and that we are innately beings looking for this natural organic order, and that everything is happening in divine alignment, and that our souls have come here to experience exactly what is going on, and that in that we find this peace together. Yeah.
Shelby?
So I'm going to quote Drew over here. Maybe we can get him to sing it to us afterwards. But,
Oh, yes.
We're already there? Is that good? We're already there. Look around us. There's beautiful humans on the panel. As Stephen asked, who's creating a conscious community out here? It's happening. Like it's happening, and you're in the right spot. So I'm super grateful to be sitting here, and to be already doing the thing on beautiful land here. Very grateful for Ian-Micheal, who invited me to Envision Festival 4 years ago, and that was really where a lot of these early things, some of the early sparks, definitely the early sparks of Holos, the earliest sparks, the Gayborhood coming through that, and just so much. We're already here doing the thing. We have the right people, and I also want to just really acknowledge this, what's happening up here of the communities coming together. Mm-hmm. There's this village of villages that's happening in the Diamante Valley and all throughout the zone. With the addition of Project Ka, I think that there's 5 or 6 intentional communities that are geographically connected. Flora Straw, Project Ka, Gayborhood, Holos.
Living Library.
Living Library is not quite connected. It's a little bit down the road, but if you're talking literally bordering, and Home Farm. Mm-hmm. 5 of them, literally bordering each other. And then if you go just in the valley, we've got Diamante Luz, we've got Living Library, we've got Fuente Verde. I mean, there's so many of these communities, and we're learning from each other. This isn't a competitive nature. It's not we're moving out of this concept of scarcity, and creating together beyond the walls of our, if there are any walls, hopefully there's no walls, beyond our own communities, into how we can support each other and grow together. And so this is how the future. I think that where things really amplify is where the energy that's created in these communities, the things that we're learning, can be shared and can be amplified and resonate further than we'll ever know.
Oh.
Well said. Yeah, synergizing.
And I really hope that Drew can sing for us before the. Goes Saturday night, Village Stage. 10 p.m. Village Stage. He's going to be really good. I promise.
At least it wasn't a solo shameless plug. That was very sweet. Thank you for that. Yeah. Wow. What a question. What does it look like? But really, it's and so many things came up for me, and it was personal responsibility, and stewardship, and commitment, and silence, inner silence, and there's it really takes so much more than an intention. There's sacrifice that happens to do this. You're gonna put your service to yourself aside and serve others and serve this greater community that we're building in order to do this, and it's so beautiful. And within that there's discipline, right? Discipline, waking up every day and committing to this meaning, this purpose, and it's so special when you can find that, when you can lock in on the role that lights you up, that role. And it's not about the identity anymore. It's about the role that you want to play, that your beingness wants to play, and really tuning yourself into that in your heart frequency. This is the role I want to play. And then you get into a role and you're like, whoa, man, I didn't want to play that role. Okay, cool. That's great information. Stop. Play a different role.
Yes.
And this is so important that we don't get stuck in our lives in these roles that we don't want to play anymore. And then we resent. There's this resentment that builds up. We resent each other. We resent ourselves. And so take that quiet space every day. Meditation has been so crucial. Awake was born out of meditation for me. And then it gave me a real everyday practice. And at first I did it to support my partner. I was like, I'm going to be here for him because he's holding this every day, 5 in the morning. And about a week into it, I go, wait a second, this is for me. This is exactly what I mean. I started waking up into meditation instead of into fight or flight mode. Because before I would wake up and I'd have a wall of text of things that I needed to take care of before I even got out of bed. And my system was always jacked. And so I just want to encourage everybody, wake up early, meditate. Right? In silence, yeah. It starts right there inside of yourself. Yeah, that's the future.
Thank you. Any other further?
Mine's really simple. It would just be to listen to the plants. I mean, they are just here, just screaming at us, including that breadfruit right there that I planted with David Wolf after he gave his talk. When the village stage used to be right over there, that breadfruit. Yeah, listen to the plants. They have all the answers. So incredible. Don't overthink. Don't think you're not ready or worthy. Yeah, that's all. LaPlante.
I wish Steven was after me because he's always the positive and I'm always like pointing things that needs to be improved. So if I think about the future, first when we were doing the meditation to start this panel, I was envisioning the future and I was really being present here and really feels the future, and I really want to celebrate that and bring that into awareness and recognition for doing the work. And at the same time, I feel that us as conscious community and the one that are leading what even conscious means is, I feel that we are very in tune to the inner work that we have to do, like our traumas, like the sessions, like I feel that we are very in tune to the food too, like okay, eating organic, like vegan. I feel that now we are very in tune also to nature, connecting with the plants, connecting with the earth. But the next step, I believe, that is for us is the social aspect. We need to be more aware and not denying the significant gap that exists in the world, in the communities we live, and really pay attention to that, and we will like really explore a new dimension of challenge, but also richness. And I know we can do it.
Amazing, thank you. Thank you guys all so much for sharing today. Really so much knowledge here. There's hundreds of years of information here that have been shared. And that's a lot of information. So let's just take a moment to just close down the eyes. Let's take a big old sigh out. Breathing in and out. Grounding down, feeling into the heart of some of the tidbits of information that have landed. Coming back to that vision of what was feeling good, of where you are right here, right now. And the community and the people and the feeling that you have, feeling like you're at home right here in your body. Breathing in from the heart, exhaling down into the earth. Breathing in, rising tall through the spine, exhaling out with a sound. We are exactly where we need to be, with exactly who we need to have to shine that light, shine that support. And a big thank you to this panel, Shelby from the Gayborhood, Drew from Awake, Ian-Micheal from Holos, Christopher from the Living Library, Andria Belen from Alegria, Stephen Brooks from Eterna, Gabrielle from Project Ka and Momentom Collective. My name is John Early. Thank you all so much for being here and shining this inspiration. Let's continue to inspire each other for this present future that we're living right now. Thank you.